We're so glad that you are here. We come together on this chilly winter night to consider our faith, to contemplate an ancient birth story, and our place in the ongoing and ever unfolding story of existence, to sing new and familiar songs, to listen for the wisdom in the darkness together, and to see what gifts arise.
Unitarian Universalism also teaches that there are many sources of truth and inspiration that can be found in many of the world's religions, philosophies, and practices, including science and history. This past weekend, we acknowledged the winter solstice. Tomorrow night is the first night of Hanukkah. The day after is Boxing Day and the start of Kwanzaa. And tonight, we pay particular attention to Christian scriptures and the story of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, and consider how this story informs our faith and our living as we conclude 2024 and head towards 2025. Tonight we explore how the birth story and baby heralded by angels celebrated on this night all across the world for so very long inspired the wise ones and the shepherds, poets and songwriters to bear witness to the beauty, the blessings, the communities of hope, and the miracles that surround us. This whole month of December, the congregation has been exploring the theme of a community of hope. And in this season of darkness and light, we interrupt the racist attitude that light is superior to dark, because we know that we need both, for both are sacred and necessary for life to continue. As we prepare ourselves for the mystery and wonder, the silence and the singing, let us receive the gift of our next breath. And exhale into this present moment. Perhaps listening for angels or ancestors, the cry of a baby, or our own heart's longing. And when we can, repeat the sounding joy, so that all who are in need of it can hear it.
Stories are one of the ways that we shape culture as human beings. The words we choose, the memories we lift up, the things that go unspoken or unrecorded tell us a lot about the subjects in the story, but they also tell us a lot about the storyteller, whether in scripture, hymns, or stories. LB read from the King James Version of the Christian Scriptures in the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verses 18 to 25. Rosie read from Luke, chapter 2, verses 1 to 11, from the New Revised Standard Version of the Christian Scriptures. Scholars from different time periods interpret the Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and Latin language translations from their own cultural, political, and social perspective. The way a storyteller writes or tells a story often conveys messages that behoove the conformity and or compliance of the listeners, or they can be messages of how to resist or change. This birth story, like many stories in the Hebrew Scriptures and the Christian Testament, have some things to teach us. There's historical context, political influence, and certainly the perspective through which we are considering them now. These stories are metaphors to offer lessons and guidance. Unitarian Universalists tend to not take the Bible literally, but rather as one of many texts that can inspire our living. I see Jesus as a great example rather than a great exception. During his lifetime, he expressed the revolutionary love of God, who he referred to as Abba. One might say, Papa. He felt close to this God, as close as a heartbeat or his next breath. He invited others into that relationship as well, to be transformed through devotion and connection and faith. Now, I'm guessing that some of you have experienced feeling inspired or connected to Jesus or his teachings, and that some of you have experienced transformation or something powerful through other practices and paths. We honor that there are lots of theologies present in this room, and we celebrate that diversity.
Our nation is stronger for our pluralism, guaranteed, at least at this moment, in the U.S. Constitution. It is a gift that we cannot take for granted. The First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. First Amendment is a powerful tool. It is an amazing gift to have freedom and the expectation of pluralism. And what a rare and precious thing it is to have a community where many expressions of truth are welcomed rather than limited. The presence of the theological diversity is one of the things that first drew me to Unitarian Universalism. It's not always easy, right? To be in the same room with people who don't think exactly like you do, but think similarly enough that you want to cast your lot with these beloved people. It's a great way to practice radical hospitality and being human together, right? We make mistakes. We mix up numbers. We mix up names. We apologize. We carry on. And our commitment as Unitarian Universalists to making the world a more just and equitable place means that we are called to do the spiritual work of removing racism and sexism, transphobia and heterosexism, classism, ageism, ableism, and so much more. Now, living in the United States at this time, it isn't just important, it is necessary to listen to one another, even when we are not being listened to. And to know deep down that what matters most to us, to know deep down what matters most to us, and let that guide our actions. I'm not saying roll over and listen to harm or hurt or hatred. I'm saying listening to one another for those who are trying to make the world a better place. Listen to the hurt, maybe, underneath the things that people say. Because if we're going to survive these next 4 years, some of us, literally, if we are going to survive, we're going to need to learn to celebrate. Celebrate how our differences, our personal, our political, our social, and theological differences that affirm life, and to question, resist, and dismantle that which does not. I'm going to say that again. We are going to need to learn how to celebrate our personal, political, social, and theological differences that affirm life, that affirm justice, that affirm joy, and to question, resist, and dismantle that which does not. Now, you may not have planned on being part of a revolution, but this gathering is an act of resistance, of messages of hatred and division and fear. Threats have been made. When someone tells you who they are, what abuse they intend to inflict with their power, believe them and prepare yourself to live with love at the center of your life anyways. Because all of our lives depend on that radical act of love at the center. And come to this place, not just on Christmas Eve, but all year, because we are going to need one another in ways we have not yet even imagined. And each Sunday we gather is an opportunity to build our resiliency, our courage, and our ability to love the hell out of this world.
If you've been feeling a little bit hopeless as 2024 winds down, take a look around you. Take a look around the Zoom screen. Look around or otherwise sense those around you. Notice one another's faces. We can find reason for hope right here. A group of people, many of whom are strangers to each other, gather to sing songs and hear stories. A group of people choosing to light candles in the dark, passing a flame to one another without feeling threatened that others may find meaning here in different ways. That's powerful. It's beautiful. It's a reason for hope. Howard Zinn wrote in his book, You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train, to be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives, he writes. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us energy to act and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. So let us remember this in the months to come, that we refuse to obey in advance to power that is corrupt, like parts of the Roman Empire. Let us remember the importance of gathering with others who care about the earth, who care about peace, who care about kindness and compassion, and to support the institutions that care about those things too. This institution, for example, institutions that some of you work for or create or also support. Because without the people's care and protection and support, these places start to disappear.
The birth of Jesus hailed a glorious opportunity for the world. There was a story that foretold the coming of a baby who would become the Messiah. The birth of this baby, just as the birth of every other baby, comes with them the possibility of being the one who will save us. Every single one of you, and you in Zoom, every single one of you in this worship service knows how to do something that will bring more kindness, or more beauty, or well-raised children, or music, or art that will bring humanity closer to its better angels, so to speak. Long has lain the world in sin and error pining. Every single one of you has particular gifts that can save the world, or at least some small part of it. And if each of us does our part, together we will experience that thrill of hope. A weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. We are each the dwelling place for the holy, for the sacred, for the spirit of life, and for the love that holds us all. Every single one of us, always. we close with this beloved poem from our dear friend and colleague, the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker.
You have to know your body as the home of God. And this is the purpose of Christmas. The rose blossoming in the wilderness is the unfolding of your pleasure as the fingers peel an orange and sweetness buds in the mouth. The bright star in the night sky is the sudden clarity of your instinct for joy. The birth cry in the night is your child falling into the dark and your arms holding her. The terror of Herod's murderous intent is your rage that would prefer death to change. The singing angel is your voice in church, not sure of the tune, but certain for a moment that there is glory. The animals breathing their warm breath is in the fragile stable are your emotions kneeling into the body of the earth at ease in the presence of God. Mary is you, God in your body. Joseph is you, sheltering God in the world. This is the key to the mystery. The Word become flesh. We are the dwelling place. When hope is hard to find, or when it sings clear like angels, may we remember our instinct for joy and that love dwells within all of us. Salam, shalom, namaste, ashe, amen, and blessed be. On this night, when hope is reborn and the miracle of peace might be within reach, and joy may resound and even repeat, we bring our service to a close by sharing candlelight and singing Silent Night. As we continue to darken the room, we can begin to notice just how much light a single flame can offer. Jesus' life and teachings brought the light of God's love and the hope of justice and peace to many. And like a flame, his message was not completely safe or easy to contain. It threatened those in power as he questioned the status quo. Love one another, he said. Simple, and yet so challenging. Tonight, as we sit in near darkness, as we pass the flame from person to person, let us seek to see love's pure light. Each of you possesses a unique spark that could bring light to some part of the world if you would but kindle it. Within every one of us lies the potential to be the dawn of redeeming grace for one another. When we make amends, when we dare to rise up against injustice, when we resist fascism, and when we care for one another.
We're going to let the candlelight very slowly make its way around the room. You only need to pass it to one person. Now, I know if you are a solo adult with multiple children, you might need to do a little variation on that, but almost everyone, you only need to pass the light to one person so that each of us might give and receive in equal measure. And there's no need to rush. We'll let the light glow and go slowly. And just notice the delicate changes of the room as the light goes with this slow, intentional passing. And enjoy the giving and the receiving as people's faces suddenly illumine. As the light fills up the place as the flame gets passed around, Maria will begin to play the piano. And after we're finished singing, You are invited to remain in the circle for as long as you would like. Listen to your inner self. When you are ready, you are quietly invited to first extinguish your candle. And then as you head out, when the stair lights get returned on, to place your candle in a basket near the top of the circle or on a chair if there's not a basket there. And you can join us for a light dessert reception happening in the dining room out that corner door. Or perhaps you need to carry on with your evening elsewhere into the darkness. Breathe easy. Let this happen with great regard for one another. Even if you don't know the person, maybe especially if you don't know the person that you're passing the flame to. The magnitude of this birth story lives on. More than 2,000 years later, we are still talking about it. On this Christmas Eve, we might just be able to believe that it is not too late for compassion and truth to have a final say, for the bright light of hope to shine through even on the darkest night.